Let's talk about something I think pretty much everyone has felt at some point. It's that weird, sinking feeling when you realize the things that used to make you happy just don't anymore. The stuff you used to love, the things that brought you so much joy, they just don't light you up. It's a really confusing and honestly kind of scary place to be. Yeah, does that sound familiar? It's like the color has literally been drained from your world. Well, that feeling has a name. It's called anhedonia, and it turns out there is some powerful, fascinating neuroscience that explains exactly what's going on. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack what is happening inside your brain. All right, so to figure out why pleasure fades, we first have to understand how our brain handles pleasure and pain. And here's the wild part. Neuroscientists discovered they're processed in the exact same parts of the brain. They're basically two sides of the very same coin. I want you to imagine a really simple seesaw or a balance scale right inside your head. Now, this scale is your sense of well-being, and its number one most important job is to stay perfectly level. This fundamental drive for equilibrium is a core principle of biology called homeostasis. Your brain is working 24/7 to keep you at a stable, neutral baseline. Okay, you can't talk about pleasure without talking about dopamine. But here's the thing, there is a massive misconception about it. Most of us think it's the pleasure molecule, but that's not quite right. It's actually the motivation molecule. It's the chemical that gives you the urge to go get something. It's all about the wanting, the seeking, not so much the enjoying. So let's say you do something rewarding. You eat a piece of chocolate, you get a like on social media, you have a drink. Boom, you get a little release of dopamine, and your internal balance scale tips over to the side of pleasure. You feel good. Simple enough, right? But this is where the brain's balancing act gets really interesting. To counteract that wonderful tip towards pleasure, your brain has this amazing response that Dr. Anna Lembke calls an opponent process. You can just imagine little gremlins hopping onto the pain side of your scale to level it out. But here is the absolute key. Your brain doesn't just level the scale, it overcorrects. It actually overshoots, tipping it an equal amount to the side of pain for a little while. And you know this feeling. This overshoot explains so many universal human experiences. That brief tip into pain, that's the hangover after a fun night. It's the come down after a sugar high. It's that little pang of wanting just one more cookie or scrolling for just 5 more minutes. It's a totally normal, temporary state that's just trying to get you back to baseline. But what happens when we push this system way too hard, way too often? Well, this is where that delicate balancing act completely breaks down. When we repeatedly, intensely bombard our reward pathways with these super high dopamine activities, we're talking everything from hard drugs to the endless scroll on our phones, the brain's response starts to change in a really fundamental and kind of scary way. Instead of those little gremlins just hopping on and off the scale when needed, they start to stick around. They bring their little gremlin suitcases, they pitch their little gremlin tents, and they set up a permanent camp on the pain side of your balance. The brain's temporary fix becomes its new default state. This whole process is called neural adaptation. The psychiatrist Dr. Anna Lembke puts it perfectly. She says, we've changed our hedonic or joy set point to the side of pain. I mean, just think about that. It means your brain's entire baseline for what feels normal has shifted. You now start every single day with your internal balance already tilted toward pain, anxiety, and craving. And this leads to a crucial switch. The entire motivation for the behavior completely flips on its head. You're not chasing that substance or that activity to feel good anymore, to get a rush. Now you're just doing it to escape the chronic pain of your new baseline, just to bring that tilted scale back to level for a few minutes, just to feel normal. Now, I know this gremlin analogy is a pretty powerful way to picture it, but you might be thinking, is it just a metaphor? Absolutely not. Neuroscientists have used brain imaging to literally see this dopamine deficit state, giving us this stark, undeniable picture of what is happening inside an addicted brain. Okay, let's look at the actual evidence. What you're seeing here are PET scans of human brains. The colors show the availability of dopamine D2 receptors. You can think of them as docking stations for dopamine. On the far left, in that control column, the bright reds and yellows show a healthy brain, just loaded with these docking stations, ready to process rewards. Now, look at the brains on the right. These are from people with addictions to cocaine, meth, alcohol, and heroin. The difference is just staggering. The reds and yellows are almost totally gone. This is a photograph of what we've been talking about, a brain in a profound, deep dopamine deficit state. But here it is. Here's the most shocking part of this entire study. These scans weren't taken while the person was high or even in the first few days of coming down. These images were taken 2 full weeks after they had last used their drug of choice. So let that sink in for a second. This is not a fleeting bad mood. It's not a 24-hour hangover. This dopamine deficit is a measurable, physical, persistent neurological state that lasts for weeks and sometimes much, much longer. The gremlins have well and truly moved in. So what does it actually feel like to walk around with a brain that looks like that? When you're not using the thing that got you here, what is your moment-to-moment reality? Well, without that drug to temporarily level the balance, you're left living with this constant grinding tilt to the side of pain. And that shows up as the universal symptoms of withdrawal, which are the same no matter the addiction. Just this simmering anxiety, irritability, you can't sleep, depression, and this overwhelming, constant craving for relief. And this brings us right back to the question we started with. Why does nothing feel good anymore? Because in this dopamine deficit state, the small, everyday joys of life, a beautiful sunset, a great conversation, a good meal, they just don't have enough dopamine punch to even register on that tilted scale. The world feels gray because neurologically, your capacity to experience reward and motivation is just broken. You know, when you see this evidence, when you see those brain scans and realize how deeply the brain has been altered, it is so easy to feel hopeless. If your brain is physically stuck like this, is it permanent? Is there any way to evict the gremlins and find your way back to a level balance? Well, the answer, thankfully, is yes. There is a way out of this. But, and this is a big but, it is not a quick fix. As all the science and clinical experience shows, restoring that balance is a journey. It takes time. It takes a ton of patience. The brain can heal itself, but it does so on a biological timeline, not on our emotional one. So if those brain scans show a huge deficit, even after 2 weeks of being clean, how long does it actually take for those gremlins to finally pack up their tents and leave? Is it even possible to get back to that original healthy baseline? Tomorrow, we're going to explore the real timeline for recovery and the hard truth about what it really takes to reset your brain's pleasure-pain balance. I'll see you then.